Welcome back to Talking College Baseball. I am your host, Chris Barber. I'm joined with my co-host, Joe Sparber. And Joe, I'll let you introduce our guest here today.
Yeah, guys. So welcome back. Today we got our new guest, our first guest actually. He's one of my best friends, my college roommate for 4 years, Dan Federman. I would just like to say thanks for coming. Thanks for taking the time out of your day, and
Oh, thanks for having me,
excited to be
guys.
on with you.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, so
So today's episode we're gonna start to talk about Dan's recruiting process, the time he spent at Miami, and the time he's a professional now. So it's exciting.
Yes, sir.
yeah, let me give you a little background about Fed. If you couldn't tell, Fed played at the University of Miami. I'm repping the shirt today. Pitched there for 4 years. He's getting thrown the U up, and yeah, let's start it off with the recruitment process.
So
How did everything?
coming out of high school, coming out of high school, how did the recruitment process go for you? What made you want to become a Miami Hurricane? Was baseball always your number one sport? Let's hear it.
Yeah, so for me, being down in South Florida, so many guys, there's a lot of baseball players. We play year round down there. And I know guys up in the Northeast and Midwest, they're playing different sports. So we played year round, probably played way too many games than we should have. And there was a little bit of pressure I felt, to commit kind of early. A lot of my travel ball teammates, they committed to Miami and all these top schools at 15, 16 years old. And, I knew that I could pitch there and I was confident enough. Um, I kind of felt a little bit of pressure like, oh, this is getting late. I was going into my junior year, was uncommitted, had a couple offers, but deep down I knew I was like, I want to go to the University of Miami. Who wouldn't? Both my parents went there. My mom played a sport there. My mom was on the rowing team. So just already growing up in South Florida, being a Hurricanes fan, that was my number one school. I really didn't have a second school that I was extremely interested in. Um, so basically, you know, I talked to Miami, but hadn't got an offer going into my junior year. And I just remember, I was throwing at a tournament one day, and I see everybody. After I threw out the first batter, everybody starts going behind home plate, and I was like, "Damn, what's going on?" Like, it's kind of crazy. Um, I found out after the game, oh, you hit 91, and everybody's fired up. And I'm pretty sure I walked three guys, maybe gave up 3 runs.
Oh
Don't even remember. All I know is that it was a very subpar outing. Was not happy about it. But I mean, my life kind of changed that day. I mean, I got in the car after the game. We had about a 2-hour drive home, and I would say about 30 teams in the matter of an hour reached out, hey, we want you to come on a visit. And there's only one team I actually cared about and wanted to go take a visit to, and that was U Miami. And they were one of the teams that reached out. So um, I committed to Miami right before my junior year started. I would say about a week or two before school started. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I got my offer in that room. I didn't leave without giving them a yes. I mean, I know school's expensive and all, but I was going to make it work no matter what. So I was fired up. It was my dream school. The offer came in, and I didn't even go visit anywhere else. I was like dead set on this is what I wanted to do.
that's great. Completely different, if you guys remember from last week, between Chris's recruiting experience and Fed's recruiting experience. Chris was saying back senior year, he's still looking for a spot, trying to see where he wants to go. Here you have Dan saying junior year, he's sophomore year summer.
Yep.
It's getting late for him. All the kids he played with on his team are committed. A lot of kids are committing left and right, and he feels like time's running out. So it's just crazy, just a different location, whether you're in Florida versus up north like us in New Jersey, or I don't even know what California's like, but the recruiting process is different for everyone, and it's really cool that we get to hear that.
Yeah, man.
So take us back.
Fed,
You're on the mound throwing. You're on the mound in this tournament. Light up the gun, 91 miles an hour. Said you don't even know if you had a good outing or not. 30 teams reach out. You know Miami's the number one spot. How long did it take for you to get to their office to talk about your decision to
Oh,
commit?
I think I went the next weekend. I remember getting a tour of the campus with my mom and dad. Um, right after the tour, pretty much saw everything about the school. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't even need to go on a visit. As soon as they gave me an official offer, deep down, I talked to my parents. I was going to go there, and that was the plan. So I think it was within a week of getting the call from JD Arteaga that I decided to commit there.
That's awesome. And if you guys don't know, JD Arteaga, the former pitcher coach, is now the head coach for the Miami Hurricanes. He just got the job about a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fed. I've always wondered, committing to a school like Miami in high school, like what was it like when you went back there the fall of junior year into high school?
Oh,
What was it
dude,
like being committed to a school like that?
I felt like the man, to be honest with you guys. I mean, I've always been, taught be humble and all this, but it was almost like a little bit of a weight was taken off my shoulders. It wasn't like now I have pressure to perform. Now I'm a Miami commit, so I have to be held to this standard. It was almost like I could relax and just focus on, I'm here to win a state championship and I'm playing baseball. And it actually gave me a lot of confidence. It was like, you know what, they saw something in me and they liked me. They want me on campus, and now I can just go play baseball. So I think a lot of guys maybe, take a little bit of pressure into their commitments. Like, oh, I got to perform now. I'm held to this standard. I think for me, it alleviated that. I was, my high school team, it was pretty crazy. Senior year, we actually had 11 University of Miami commits on one team, which I mean, even saying that now it's like almost sounds made up, but you could go back and look at the roster. Not everybody made it to campus, but at one point we had 11 verbal University of Miami commits on the same high school baseball team.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Easy
It
for
was
them to recruit, I
Archbishop
guess.
McCarthy for high school,
Yep. Southwest Rancho,
and you
Florida.
guys were the number one team in the country.
We were my senior
You guys
year.
won national championships year and out.
Correct. 3 state
So
championships in
wow,
4 years.
all right.
Yeah.
So you said a lot of guys didn't make it to campus. Graduating senior year, you had probably a decision whether you were going to come to campus,
Mm-hmm.
pitch for the Hurricanes, or going a different route, going to the draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the option was there. I don't think it would have been the smartest idea. I mean, the money, I would say, when it comes to a high school guy signing, a lot of guys, want a big signing bonus. And, that sounds great and all. But, I had a number that at the time maybe was a little unrealistic. But I think that was almost done on purpose for myself, ensuring that I got to campus. I think if I could go back, I wouldn't have changed a single thing about it. I would not have signed out of high school. I'm glad I wasn't put in a position where it was a number close to what I wanted, where it's like, hey, you got to make a decision now. So I pretty much knew, come draft time a little bit before that I was most likely going to end up on campus. And, I don't regret it at all. I mean, those are the best 4 years of my life. I mean, you were part of all 4 of those. So, I mean, you can attest to that too.
That's great. Yeah.
So you said you had a decision. Well, you weren't sure if you're going to have a decision or not
Mm-hmm.
come draft night your senior year
Mm-hmm.
of high school. During that time, what was it like to possibly get drafted out of high school?
No, it was really cool for me just to, pitch in front of those scouts. I mean, our schedule was loaded. We played, several first rounders that year in the draft we faced in and out of the season. Our third baseman was a second rounder with the Astros. Our first baseman was the number 1 player in the class for quite a while. Tons of scouts at every game. So I think not only did that get me ready for college and, what was to come into where I am now, but it was a cool experience. I mean, talking to, high school kid, being in the position to talk to all these teams and have an option. I mean, definitely could have signed. But it was just a really cool experience, all in all with, hey, you got to show up to the field and, you got to stretch right. You got to, work hard because they're watching everything. I mean, just at practice, we'd have a normal practice and there'd be 10, 15 teams out there to watch BP and watch infield, outfield, watch catch play. So it's pretty crazy to be exposed to that. I was exposed to it all 4 years, but then senior year finally get to be a little bit a part of that where, you knew everybody was watching what you were doing, especially, with that level of competition. They were here to see other guys. And then now you can find a way to group yourself in with that. So they might not be there to watch you, but you better be doing your things right. You better be handling your business because, they're seeing you too. You're on the same field as those guys. So it was just good, kind of holding me accountable. Like, I've never been the person to take shortcuts and cookie cut things. I'm a little bit OCD in that aspect where I have to have everything done the right way. But it was good because it kind of held me, accountable with that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you decide to go to college. You're moving in. Your roommate is Alex Terrell.
Hmm.
Played since you were little league with him, right? He was currently ranked the number one player in the country.
Yep.
He also decided to come to college with us. And your other two roommates are two Northeast kids, never met before. I didn't know what they were like, myself included, and Chris McMahon.
Yep. Sweet mates.
Yeah.
Shared a bathroom, shared a shower.
How was that transition?
For me,
Shared everything.
it was weird at first. I'm an only child. My space is my space. I never really had to share a room. I never had to share anything in my whole life. I mean, I grew up pretty spoiled. My parents, did everything for me and helped me in every aspect. So at first, when I got to campus, I'm like, wow, I'm living with three other guys. Our dorms were not nice whatsoever. I mean, I don't know if I think they're doing some new dorms for the guys now, but they were the same dorms as when my mom was an athlete there. So that's how old these dorms were. And it was honestly a little bit of like a wake up call, like, hey, not everything's about you. You have to learn to share. We had one sink, two sinks, one shower, one bathroom. So at first it was weird. I mean, I didn't know you guys at all. I never heard of either of you guys. So it was kind of cool. Once we got to know each other, I mean, there was a crazy story where, me and Alex were leaving for the weekend and we didn't, you can't lock your door. So I was like, oh, what are we going to do with all of our stuff? What if they come in here and take stuff? So we actually put a mini fridge in front of the door, which saying it out loud now, it's kind of embarrassing. It's weird, but it was like, little did we know that these were going to be two of our best friends for the rest of our lives. We're like, these are just random guys that, we were put with, we knew nothing about them. And, Terrell and I had grown up. He was my first baseman since we were 12 years old. Travel ball, middle school, high school baseball, and now going to college. So, him and I were more than comfortable with each other. But for both of us, it was the first time out of the house, and it was the first time living with two people we had never met before.
Yeah, that's interesting. So for people who are listening and want to know what he means by this, Chris McMahon, my roommate as well, we were from the Northeast in Miami. No way for us to go home on the weekends. So when you go to college, usually a lot of schools, they make you come like a month or two early as a freshman, try to get accustomed, try to do workouts, just trying to like fit in with the team. A lot of the guys on the team were from South Florida, Dan, Alex included. So they got to go home on the weekends. Chris and I didn't. Chris and I would stay. And Dan and Alex, I guess, thought we were going to go play or take something from their room. So they just tried to barricade the door. It was like Saturday morning. Chris and I woke up. We were like, oh, let's go play PS4 in their room. Door's barricaded. Can't get in. Can't get in. We're like, oh, these guys. I don't know what we're going to do here. It's like 1 week into Miami. I was like, this is incredible. But who would have thought 6 years later, Dan's one of my best friends, and we ended up living together for 4 more years.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. But it is what it is.
So Dan, let me ask you about the training part between you're a senior in high school. You said you know you're training, you do everything on your own. Obviously, getting ready for the draft. Hopefully, your senior year of high school. How do you go from that training to training at the ACC level with a full-time strength coach? All these coaches on you guys. Like what was the difference between that and in high school?
Oh, it's definitely a big difference. I mean, I started going to a personal trainer. I actually still work out with him in the off seasons now. I've been going to him for 8 years now. Um, going from like a one-on-one private training environment to, from where everything's kind of about you and what your needs are and stuff like that, to coming into basically, I mean, our freshman year was, to me, it was like boot camp. I mean, the training wasn't at 2:30 in the afternoon. It was at 5:50 in the morning. I mean, you had to get up. You had to finally, not that you weren't working hard in high school and stuff like that, but it was just a different level. And I think they made it in that way to kind of weed out the guys who weren't going to last. And at the time, it was like, what are we doing? We're running at 5:45 in the morning. We're lifting weights until, our backs are getting sore. And it was almost at first like, damn, am I going to be able to do this? Like, this is crazy. This isn't smart. And looking back, it was like, damn, I'm glad that we went through that because it did wean some guys out. You saw who was going to make it and who wasn't, in that atmosphere. And I think that everybody benefited at the end from it because it brought you guys closer, and it was just a completely different, environment. You had to find a way, like, hey, my legs feel like jello and I have pins and needles throughout my legs. And it was like, you had 10 more sprints. So you're either going to look soft in front of 25 new guys and a bunch of veterans and juniors and seniors in college, earn your stripes that way, or you're just not going to last. So I think it's like a wake up call. If like, this is what you want to do, this is what you have to do. You can't, oh no, I'm here to play baseball and I'm just going to play baseball. I'm not going to worry about all this other stuff. It's like, sometimes you got to do stuff you don't want to do. And, we did get big. I think that what helped a lot of the guys is we were into, our physique and stuff like that. So this was the first time we were lifting, for a little bit like bodybuilders. I mean, I remember, being sort of becoming obsessed with the weight training part more so than the baseball, where it was like, I want to look good in the mirror and I'm not really focused on, oh, is this my pitching mechanics? It was like, I'm coming here to get big. I need to get physical. You see other guys in there who are 6'4", 230. And I came into college 6 foot, 190 pounds, which is, that's a good sized kid, but it's like, you're competing with guys that are 30, 40 pounds, way more physical than you. And it's like, you got a choice. You're either going to get in or get out.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Not only were they 6'4", 230 pounds, we were both, or most of us are 18-year-old kids coming in. We were coming from big fish. We were big fish in small ponds out of high school,
Mm-hmm.
coming into college. And now we have 23, 24-year-olds, grown men, who've been doing it for 6 years. They're the big fish.
Yeah.
They're the ones. So earning our stripes, doing that with them, I feel like it really changes you.
No, absolutely.
What did you think the transition was like when we were training with and working out with people 5, 6 years older than us? Like,
It was cool to see, some guys put up some serious weight for the first time. I mean, I remember walking in the weight room and I seen some of the juniors and seniors, squatting 450 pounds, deadlifting 550 pounds. And I'm like, damn, I'm not on that level. So it was kind of motivating. It was like, that's where you got to be and you're going to be there, but you got to put in your time. You got to put in your hours. And I think it was cool. We had some veteran guys, some guys who, traditionally in Miami, at that program, you don't have a lot of seniors come back. You have a lot of guys, get drafted junior year. And then usually guys who come back for senior year, it just doesn't work out. And, everybody's there to play pro ball. But we had some guys that, different circumstances came back. And I remember Jeb Bardfeld, Michael Burns, those guys were, they were good leaders. They were our two captains freshman year. And, they weren't, giving you that big league energy. They were there to help you and push you and stuff like that. But just seeing their work ethic, it was like, well, hey, those are the two captains. That's what we aspire to be. We want to play. Everybody wants to be the Friday night starter. Everybody wants to be the starting center fielder, the starting catcher. And it's like, you got to outwork people. So it was a little bit not hostile in there, but it's like, you're competing for the same job as a lot of other guys. And as much as they're your close friends and ended up being, best friends, at the end of the day, it's my spot or your spot. So, if you're there to, be a cheerleader, that's awesome. And, everybody's got those guys and you need to be a good teammate. But, if you want to go in and you want to go play, you gotta put in the work. And I think those guys set a good example, for me, at least the next 3 years of like, hey, this is what's going to be expected of you if you want to stay here.
it really is a dog-eat-dog world in college baseball. So I think we lost Chris for a second. I don't see him, but we're going to move on to we get through the fall season. Spring ball comes, our freshman year. You don't decide, you become our closer. You become our battery guy. You're in there for the long situations in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one, you fit every position. So they use you to start sometimes. They use you to relief, close, etc. How was that like?
I actually loved it. Um, I kind of considered myself throughout that year. Like, I remember, I forget what coach said. It was like, hey, Fed's the jack of all trades. It was, I was cool at first. Like, hey, I want to come here and I want to pitch, but I also want a,
Mhm.
prominent role and I want to really contribute to this team. And right from that first game, I threw on that Friday night against Rutgers. I was the first guy out of the pen, so it was like getting thrown into the fire right away was awesome for me. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't nervous. Absolutely was nervous, but I thought I was prepared for it. So, pretty much that whole year had so many different roles. I went from long reliever to setup guy to our closer got suspended for a little bit, so closed a few games. Then it was, hey, Fed, we need you for midweek games. I started 4, 5, 6 midweek games. So I think it was cool to kind of, get me accustomed to anything that I could be thrown into in college baseball, especially at that level too. I mean, pitching in the ACC is no joke. So, um, just being able to go out and show the team, hey, I'm fine with whatever role you need me to do, and I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to do my best. Didn't always have success and wasn't always dominant, but you knew what effort you were going to get from me. You knew that, I wasn't going to be scared out there, and I think part of that was built up from high school, kind of going through that a little bit beforehand, and then get thrown out into college. So, just staying ready. I mean, we had our other roommate, Chris McMahon. He was one of our top, pitching prospects coming into the season, and definitely would have had a high end role for the team. And he went down with a knee injury, and I stepped up and ate a lot of those innings, and that's how I kind of built my success throughout college was just being ready and making sure that you're whatever role it is, you better be ready to go, and you can't be salty about, oh, I want to be a starter, so I'm pitching out of the bullpen. And you can't carry that over with you. You have to kind of embrace where you are. And then if you pitch well, you earn your spot from there. I was lucky that, I was given that opportunity and then I capitalized on it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely great. You definitely did. You earned your spots.
Yeah.
Um, we're gonna take a 2 minute break right now, and we'll be right back. Chris, pause it and figure out your connection.
So, Fed, freshman year ends. I mean, you pitched 60 innings with 54 strikeouts and at a 2.25 ERA, which led the Hurricanes in 2018 with the lowest ERA. You're the top pitcher for the Hurricanes, so you're going into sophomore year. I mean, what are your thoughts going into sophomore year? I mean, you got to be thinking you're going to be a starter.
Yeah, no, I definitely set my goal. My goal since I came in was always to be the Friday night starter, to be the ace. So that's what I worked for. That was what my goal was going into the year. I ended up not playing summer ball. I took the whole summer, just trained, moved into an apartment with Joe, and had a great off season. Came back, and in fall ball, we had a couple surprises. I mean, you knew two guys were going to be in the rotation, but there was a third rotation spot open, and we had Brian Van Belt transfer in from a junior college. And I mean, this guy just pitched his ass off the entire fall. It wasn't even close. He was definitely the guy when it came to, success during the fall. And it was like, you know what, he just straight up earned the job. And I remember going into, my preseason meeting and, them telling me, hey, we think you're going to be out of the bullpen. And I remember at first I was definitely upset by that. I mean, I wanted to be a starter. I thought I had, earned the right to be a starter, deserved it. And then the more and more I thought about it, I was like, hey, if I want you to be the closer this year, immediately, oh, that's pretty sick. This is no joke. I mean, being the closer of the team you can argue it's the most pressure situation, as part of a pitching staff. I mean, you need your 3 starters or 4 starters, but at the end of the day, I mean, the only 3 outs that matter are the last 3. So, I think it was really cool. After a while and the more I thought about it, I was like, all right, you know what? I didn't get pushed out of anything here. If anything, I have a bigger role now. And it was kind of a role I was willing to take on. And I thought that had the right mindset for, definitely never been scared out there. I've always been a little bit too amped up and too fired up. And what better, role to do that than being a closer. So, going into that year, I remember, first or second game ended up, getting a save and was like, all right, here we go. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, you're in the pen. Let's say you're about to go in a closed situation. What goes through your mind? What do you do to prepare to go right into the game to close it out? Like, what do you tell yourself? You get on the mound, all that. Give it a all.
So my prep was a little bit longer back then than it is now. I mean, I started doing mobility, in the training room, I would say in the third inning. I mean, there's no need to do that. I don't think any big league closer or minor league closer is warming up for 7 innings, but that's what got me locked in. And I really think that my preparation is what gave me some more success than, you can't just go out there and, I wasn't a mid upper 90s guy who was just going to, blow hitters' doors off like some of these guys in college baseball and are throwing 100 miles an hour. I was relatively low 90s, maybe run it up to 94, maybe 95 on a perfect day. But, pretty much sat 90, 93. And, I think that just making sure, I was prepared physically, if I felt good physically, I felt good mentally. It went hand in hand for me. And I would say the biggest adjustment was, hey, you're going to have to throw back-to-back days. So I became like a yoga freak and a treatment. I was doing treatment probably, too much. If anything, I was doing too much. But, I mentally thought that's what I needed to do to get myself ready to throw back-to-back days. I mean, sometimes I even threw 3 games in a row. I mean, it happened a couple times. And, um, I think that's kind of what set me apart a little bit. It wasn't definitely not the stuff. There was definitely guys with better stuff. But, I knew that I could get hitters out 3 different ways. And, I wasn't just trying to strike every batter out. And, I think it was good. It definitely took a little bit of time to get used to, that role. And, sometimes I even came in the 7th inning. So it wasn't just your traditional, your big league closer might come in for 5, 6 outs, maybe 6 outs. But for the most part, they're throwing the 9th inning. So, making sure that by the 7th inning, hey, you're ready to go. If you have to go get 7 outs, you go get 7 outs. There's nobody behind you. You've got to go get this done or we lose the game.
Yeah, I think the
Well,
coaches
yeah.
knew that too. You were our Iron Man. You were basically the whole team knew it. 6th inning comes around, we're up by 3. Now we're up by 2. Everyone's like, all right, Fed, get to the bullpen. Everyone knows you're going in. Everyone knows you're going to close out the game. It could be Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. You were our guy, and that followed throughout the rest of the season, all the way to regionals. I believe we were in
Hmm.
Mississippi State, and you got to pitch in front of 15,000 people.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was a cool experience there. We ended up losing that game, but Mississippi State was something I'll never forget.
Yeah, they went to Omaha that year. That they have their shortstops in the big leagues, actually with my organization right now. So they had tons of draft picks. I mean, they're at their home field. Just to do that though, and then to carry that confidence over to the next season, just to have gone out there because our freshman year we didn't make a regional, we didn't make the postseason, so we kind of failed as a team. But to finally get there and get that taste, it was like, all right, well, now everybody's going to come back the next year. We're all bigger, faster, stronger. We can do this. We didn't get blown out. I think it was like a 5-3 game or something like that. And we held our
Sounds
own,
about
and
right.
yeah, and I really think that we had the team to do it. Things didn't kind of fall our way, but I was happy with the overall season, and finally getting back to the postseason and being a big part of it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Then junior year comes. We're slotted the number 1 team in the country. We
Hmm.
have Brian Van Bell is our Friday night. He's a professional baseball player. Chris McMahon, I believe, was our Saturday night. He was
Hmm.
with the Rockies. And Slade Ciccone is our Sunday night with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And then
Yep.
if you want to look for our closer, we have Dan Federman from the Orioles. We also have Carson Palmquist. We had the whole entire team to do it our junior year.
Yeah.
And college baseball agreed. They agreed with us that we were going to do it. We're at UCF, about to head on a bus or on a plane to Virginia Tech. Chris is currently at. And COVID-19 hits. The bus turns around.
Yep.
What's going through your mind when this happens?
I would say, it was kind of just like a weird spot in the world. I mean, everything kind of shut down. It was a little bit bigger than baseball, not knowing what was going to happen. I mean, you knew the season was already canceled. Forget the draft, forget everything. People are getting sick. You have no idea what's going on. Um, Kind of just like almost in like a limbo phase. And for me, that was a big year. That was my draft year. I thought, okay, this is my last time wearing a Hurricanes uniform. I actually got the last three outs of that season in UCF. I got a save that night, and we had the team. It was kind of a crappy feeling knowing that. I mean, how deep we were. I mean, you look at that bullpen. I mean, you have four guys that played professional baseball. You had Greg Valise with the Angels, Carson Palmquist with the Rockies, Tyler Kaiser with the Reds, and myself with the Orioles. And forget your AAA Friday night Boston Red Sox starter on Friday night. Your Saturday night starter was a second rounder is in AA with the Rockies, and your Sunday guy ended up being a first rounder and is in AAA with the Diamondbacks. I mean, I don't. I mean, I just watched college baseball the past 3 years. I can't find a staff. I mean, even as talented as some of these Omaha staffs are, I don't think they had eight guys who were wearing a professional uniform all at the same time in one pitching rotation. I mean, that's pretty crazy to say that out loud. And just to think that, that was kind of taken away from us. Forget about the second rounder at shortstop and the second rounder behind the plate catching our games and the stud outfielders we had and the infield. I mean, Terrell at first base coming off, a 290 season, hitting 24 home runs in the ACC, leading the ACC. I mean, I don't think that we really had a weak spot on that team. And then if somebody went down, there's somebody right behind it ready to pick them up. So it's like, it was a crappy feeling knowing that if we were going to win the College World Series, it was going to be that year with that team. I mean, I don't see a team beating us two or three times.
I mean,
Yeah,
and you
no,
guys are
it's
playing
definitely
well.
was depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are playing well right before everything. I mean, you guys are really, it looked like that was the year. And obviously, I was a Miami fan at the time, and I'm still a Miami fan kind of, but I was rooting for you guys. Obviously, right? I was excited to see you guys go to hopefully Omaha and stuff like that. And we're already talking about at home that we're gonna make the trip to Omaha and stuff like that. And then COVID-19 hits, which shocked the world, obviously, but it obviously affected the whole team.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think we were ranked one in the country at the time too.
Yeah. No, we started off the
Yeah,
season
number one
hot.
ranked team in the country.
We lost the series to Florida at home, but both games were one run. And I was on both sides of those losses. I threw in both of those games, and I gave up a run in both those games. So it was, obviously not ideal, but you're not going to be perfect every game. And it was kind of like, what, got those out of the system, and it was behind us. It didn't matter. Nobody talked about it. Nobody thought about it. It was like, okay, who are we going to beat next? And that was the mentality of that team. And I really think that I would say just forget about the talent. I think that team was cocky. They were confident, and we thought we were the best. I mean, we might not have been, but we thought we were. So I think that that in of itself, we would have been put ourselves in that Omaha conversation for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. That was Gino's first year too as a head coach. He had a new team. He worked us completely different than the past. I would say we actually ended up working harder than we ever worked before
Hmm.
in the off season. I felt like we were in military training. We would go to strength training after practice. We had circuits, early running, you name it.
Everything.
But it got us to where we were. And there's sometimes in life can't control everything. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. So the draft changed. It's no longer 40 rounds. They condensed it to 5 rounds.
Yeah.
So senior year comes, you come back to college, and you are Friday night. You are a Friday night starter your senior year.
Yep.
Finally got you earned it.
Yeah, I mean it was definitely cool. Obviously I would have liked to sign in a normal draft, but I think it was a good thing. I really wouldn't go back and change it. I was able to come back my senior year, get my degree, and I was able to check off my two biggest bucket lists, going into college. Two of the three was, become the Friday night starter, get voted team captain, and win the College World Series. And I was able to accomplish two of those. And, it's an honor to, have my teammates vote on that and the coaches vote on that. So, I definitely wore that with pride. And, I earned the Friday spot in the fall. I had a really good fall, pitched well, was one of the older guys. We didn't have a lot of guys in my class still on that team, pitchers at least. And, I started the season and it did not go my way. I mean, it just felt like, I think I came in a little bit focused on, I put a little bit more pressure on myself than even needed to be. I mean, there was no pressure. It was just go have fun and compete. Um, but I ended up getting bumped out of that rotation, and it hurt for a while. I was definitely upset. I don't think I ever showed it or wore it. I ended up, I think it was my last 30 innings were out of the bullpen. I ended up giving up one run. So, I definitely turned my season around. Went from being a terrible start for myself, especially I'm supposed to be the one. You're the senior, you're the Friday night, you're the captain. I'm supposed to be leading the pitching staff. And I really didn't to start the year, whether it was bad luck or it was getting hit or whatnot. But really turned a corner once I got bumped out of that rotation. I think the pressure just kind of, came off, and I was like, you know what, you have a decision. You can either, you know, throw in the towel and say, oh, this year was a bust and I didn't do what I wanted, or you can put your back against the wall and, fight back. And I think I really did a good job of that. I got some saves. I remember I got a big save, and our closer that year, Carson Palmquist, was the best closer in the country. So, he was doing his job, and you know what? He deserved that. He earned that job, and whatever role I was used in, I remember I got a spot start, I got a save. I kind of went back to the freshman year me, where it was, hey Fed, we need to start today. Okay, cool. Who are we facing? All right, what time's the game? I'll be there. Hey, we need a long relief role. Hey, we need you to get 5 innings on a midweek game against Florida Gulf Coast. Okay, no problem. Sounds good to me. We need you to get a save tonight. Carson's thrown 2 days in a row. Awesome. So I think I definitely did a good job of bouncing back and finishing the year strong. Obviously, we didn't finish how we wanted, but I think that was it was a good team, and we definitely had the pieces. It was just a lot younger of a team than we had the previous years, and things kind of didn't fall our way.
So
Yeah, I
you can
mean,
say that you're a utility pitcher.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I said it earlier. I like to be the jack of all trades, and I truly, obviously everyone wants to be the ace. Everyone wants to be, the ace starter for their team. But, in the situation I'm in now in pro ball, it's like, you got to do what you can do to contribute to the team and get yourself to the big leagues and win games. So for me, if that role is to be, a top frontline starter, I'm all for it. If the role is to be a long reliever and that's where I fit in and that's where I contribute, I'm all for it. If I need to go and get, 3 outs late in the game and be a setup or closer guy, I know that mentally I can do those roles. So, I think that scenario between, the 4 years of college, I pretty much could say that I've done everything in terms of pitching.
I would have to agree with that. For all the young listeners out there, I would recommend you guys go back and re-listen to the part where Fed talked about senior year starting pitcher and losing that role. He could have thrown in the towel, but he was voted the team captain, put his head down, led by example, and he really kind of uplifted the team. Like, he showed everybody that, like, okay, I'm not playing well baseball-wise. I'm still going to be your team captain. I'm still going to set an example. He didn't change one bit. His aspect didn't change at all from what I noticed living with him. Led stretches, motivated the team, texted X, Y, and Z about practice, lifts, etc. And I think it really helped a lot of the younger guys. Like, just see an upperclassman who's team captain, struggling a little bit, and not really getting down on himself. And I think it changed the mind of a lot of people, and it was really good to see.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Back to what Joe was saying. If you're a young listener, listen to what Daniel was telling you about. He's not the hardest thrower, in the world. He's thrown what 91 to 95, and was still able to put up numbers that he put up in the ACC. So at the end of the day, I mean, you could say it's not always about velo. It's not always about just, you know, the stuff you have. It's more about competing and, having that dog in you and working harder than other people. Would you say? Would you say so?
No, absolutely. I mean, there was, like I said before, there was definitely guys with better stuff, more physical. I mean, throughout all of college, I mean, we saw some guys that, had some crazy stuff that, struggled a little bit. And it just shows you that, yeah, if you want to be a first round draft pick and stuff like that, you got to show some flashes of, that electric stuff and the size, and it definitely helps. But, we're talking about competing in college and, forget the draft, forget pro ball. I mean, those were the most fun I've ever had playing baseball. I mean, I'm blessed to be a part of those teams. I mean, that's what I was saying before about, I'm glad I wasn't put in the position at a high school to sign because, I might have. It's hard to turn down, some money when somebody offers it to you at such a young age, but it worked out good. I ended up getting my degree. I made some friends I talked to every single day. Just kind of, figuring out who you are. And I think college baseball does that in terms of, it's definitely going to build you up, but it'll knock you down sometimes. And it's like, are you going to quit? Or are you just going to mope around and feel sorry for yourself because nobody else does? I mean, it's either, no one's going to go out there and get 3 outs for you. No one's going to go out there and work out for you. No one's going to go hold your hand and walk you to class and do your homework for you. It's like, there's some things I think it teaches you how to grow up a little bit. And I really think that I have more success in pro ball for that. I don't think that I would have had the same success as I am now or been in this position if I didn't do that.
It's great. Yeah. So, Dan, if you guys have been listening, one bad game doesn't matter. One bad month doesn't matter. One bad season doesn't matter. He had that dog in him. He worked really hard, and he's currently a professional baseball player with the Baltimore Orioles. So that's just a great story to hear. How is it like being in the pros? Like, what's it like being a professional baseball player?
It's completely different than college. I mean, I think every org is different in their own way. I'm not just saying this because they're my employers and that's who I play for, but the Orioles have done an unbelievable job at developing you. I remember, so my first year I sign, come to the complex for a little bit, and I get sent out to Delmarva, which is low A for the Orioles. And I started off doing well. Numbers were good, didn't have crazy stuff. I think the velo was down a little bit. I was fatigued, kind of just trying to get through to the off season. And I remember I go out for my last appearance and I gave up a home run and I was upset about it. I was like, damn, that's a great way to finish the season, giving up a 400-foot home run. And I come in the dugout and my pitching coach at the time goes, hey, man, that changeup was nasty. And I look at him and I'm like, are you being sarcastic? And it's like, especially in the lower levels of the minor leagues, they don't necessarily care about, hey, did you put up 5 zeros or whatnot. It's about, showing different stuff and developing and getting better. And I think the Orioles have done an unbelievable job about instilling that, hey, we don't care if you, gave up a couple blue pits and a broken bat single and 3 guys scored. I mean, that stuff's out of your control. You're playing 132 games in the minor leagues and 162 in the major league. So it's like, it's really cool to see like, all right, they're trying to develop you. They're not worried about what your ERA is in low A and, just meaningless stats like that. It's, hey, are you moving in the right direction? Are you gaining velocity in the right direction? Are you learning a new pitch? Is your slider getting better? Very analytical org. And I think it's helped a guy like me who didn't come into pro ball sitting 95, 96, where it was like, hey, you got to learn how to pitch. You're going to have to learn how to pitch in the major leagues if you want to get hitters out. There's tons of guys who throw mid upper 90s that get hit all over the yard. So it's kind of like figuring out who you are as a pitcher. And the org's done an awesome job of they don't cookie cut it. It's not, hey, we want you to have these three pitches and they need to do these three things at these three velocities. It's, hey, you spin the ball really well. Let's work on, getting that slider a little bit harder. Hey, you have a really good changeup. Don't change it because, you gave up a home run on it. It was, look where this pitch was. Sometimes good pitches get hit. So I think that's the biggest difference between pro ball and college is college, you got to win. I mean, if you don't win in college and you don't produce in college, you not only do you not have a job, the coaching staff doesn't have a job. So, they got to win games. At the end of the day, you want to develop guys, but, you got to put the best nine out there and they got to win ball games or everybody's out of a job. Whereas in pro ball, guys are going to struggle. You're going to go through a tough month. You're going to have, 2-3 bad starts in a row. And just knowing that they're going to send you out there and they're going to help you figure out, hey, why did you have those bad three starts? We have post-action meetings after each outing, like, hey, this is what you did good, this is what you did bad. They never talk about, okay, so your ERA was a 3 before the game, now it's a 3.6. All right, we need to get that down. It's like, no, your fastball was really good. I don't care if they got, 2 hits on it. This is where it's going to play well, and this is how things you're doing well. And kind of building a plan to, build a major league pitcher. I mean, it's so competitive, in the minor leagues now. There's so many guys getting hurt, guys getting called up, guys signing, hidden gems kind of. But that's the biggest difference, man. I love it. I mean, it's fun to go to the field every day and you get to work on stuff.
Amazing. Chris, you got anything?
Yeah, so right now, tell everybody where you are, what level you're at, what's the name of your team?
So I play for the Aberdeen Ironbirds, which is the high A affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles. And we're about 45 minutes outside of Camden Yards, so it's pretty cool. On off days, we can go watch the Orioles play. The big birds, we're the baby birds.
You're the Iron
So
Birds.
you guys, so you got to play. I know he's in Double A now, but first overall pick Jackson Holliday. How's it like? First overall pick. You're playing with him. He's moving up pretty fast. It got to be a pretty cool experience, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, he surprised me. I mean, I would have had no idea that he was an 18, 19-year-old kid. I mean, just the baseball IQ, obviously, when your dad's that talented, he probably teaches you a few things at a young age. But just his work ethic. I mean, that guy was in the weight room like he was a nobody and had to, make a name for himself. He was in the cage hitting longer than everybody else. He was taking ground balls every day. Just a good attitude. I would say, what separates a lot of guys is definitely going to be their attitude. And to see an 18 or 19-year-old kid carry himself like a major leaguer and like somebody who's been there and done that, in his first year of pro ball, there's a reason he's in Double A as a 19-year-old. I mean, that's not a common, that's not normal. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've heard of a 19-year-old playing shortstop in Double A for the number one farm system in baseball.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I actually have a clip of you in May. I have a clip of you in May. You're actually. Let's take a look at this. Shit.
I have a feeling I know what this is.
Let's see.
Chris loves finding these things.
Yeah.
While we wait, there's a little fun fact I like to do. Dan, who is our Iron Bird. Here we go. Let's watch this first.
Let's watch this. Let's see if let me get this. Here we go. Okay.
Athletes 2 straight road trips after they finish up shop here. 1-2 to Kevin. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. It's on the inside corner. Parada.
A classic Daniel Federman walk-off post strikeout. I bring it up because Kevin Parada obviously was a first rounder from Georgia Tech, and I'm curious to see if you faced him in college as well as the pros.
Yeah, so it's actually crazy. He was my summer ball catcher in 21 before the draft in Chatham. So, I got to know him pretty well. I spent about a month with him, kid's obviously talented. There's a reason he went, I believe, fifth overall to the Mets. But it was pretty cool, get to see these guys at the amateur level and then finally facing the same hitters in pro ball, just seeing that, you know, it's not, that big of a difference. I'm sure, we're talking AAA and major league level. Yes, that those guys are a little bit different, a little bit more polished. But, I faced so many guys this season and last season that I faced in college. And at the end of the day, it's the same game. And, you face tons of first rounders. But at the end of the day, that pitch actually right there was a backup cutter up and in. It was supposed to be down and away. And it's like, I ended up getting a strikeout on it. I get myself out of a jam and, fired up. And it just shows you, watching that clip over, it's like in the moment I thought, oh, I just threw a nasty 88-mile-an-hour cutter. And it really wasn't. It was kind of up and in. It was an 0-2 count. Probably not the best place to throw a guy like that. But, he my last time facing him in college, he actually got a bases loaded single through the right side, scored a run. So, if Kevin ends up seeing this, I'm glad I got your back, But yeah.
Great. Before we wrap it up, can you give us, our young listeners out there, any advice or any tips that they should take or carry with them moving forward in their baseball career?
Yeah, I'd say, don't look at the rankings. Don't look at, where you are right now. Just know where you want to go. Have a goal in mind and go after it and just handle your business day by day. Your life can change in one day to the next. I mean, I went from having no offers to about 35 in one inning, and I didn't even have a good game. So it was like, just kind of try to stay positive. I've really been focusing this season on not just the physical side, but the mental side. I mean, I'd say baseball is honestly more mental than it is physical now. I mean, everybody's good and everybody's talented, but if you can find a way to be confident, stick to your process and not, ride the emotional roller coaster that a lot of guys struggle with, especially in a professional season or even a college season, so many games. I mean, don't let a bad game or a bad month or whatever, get to you, because at the end of the day, if your goal is to play baseball, you're going to struggle. I mean, I think this is the most, failure of any sport, out there. So if you want to play baseball and this is what you want to do, then, don't ride that emotional roller coaster. Make sure working hard, take care of your business, and you just go day by day.
All right, so we saw that this year you played in the World Baseball Classic for Team Israel, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How was that experience playing, in arguably the most viewed baseball tournament in history?
We talked earlier about pitching in front of 15,000 at Mississippi State. This was a little different. I would say, a sold out Marlins Park. It's almost like overwhelming. I remember the first game we played against Nicaragua, and it wasn't even a sold out game. It was at noon, but just the sound, the stadium felt like it was vibrating. I mean, I just remember walking out to go play catch, and you didn't need caffeine. I mean, I'm a big caffeine guy, and I drank half my energy drink and was like, I need to put this down because, my heart is pounding out of my chest. So, once that first game, we won the first game, put ourselves in a good spot in the tournament. But once we got that first one over, it was like, all right, I'm excited to pitch. I came here to throw in this game, and, I want to contribute to this team. And just to see the guys that were, I'm sharing a locker room with, I mean, forget about, my team had a lot of major leaguers, a lot of studs on it. Everybody on that team is a stud baseball player. But just to look across the diamond and to see, first ballot Hall of Famers on each of the other three teams that were in our pool. Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Venezuela. Basically 3 all-star teams. Every single guy in the starting lineup was an all-star at some point in their career, and some of them are going to be first ballot Hall of Famers. So, no matter what I do in my baseball career, that's going to be pretty hard to top. I would say winning a World Series or being a part of a World Series would be pretty close. So, probably beat that. But, I mean, I can't even describe to you the excitement. I mean, we had a lot of guys who were major leaguers who, on our team who say this game is, it's more passionate in that stadium than a World Series. I mean, we had a couple guys play and participate in a World Series, and they all said the exact same thing.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, you're playing in the same tournament as guys like, Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout. Um, who were some guys that were in your pool on the DR in Puerto Rico?
Oh, I mean that DR team. I remember, they had Juan Soto was in the lineup, Manny Machado, Jeremy Pena. I mean, I'm leaving out some studs. Venezuela's Ronald Acuna, Jose Altuve. I mean, just Puerto Rico. You had Lindor and Javi Baez. I mean, MJ Melendez beyond the plate. I mean, just like, I mean, these are everyday, top tier household name big leaguers. And just to be on the field with those guys, it was cool because not only are they the best players in the world, I mean, they all have careers that I aspire to have. And, I hope I'm in their shoes one day. But it was a cool experience for me to see, like, I felt like I belonged there. I didn't feel like I was completely out of place. And, I hadn't pitched past high A, and now I'm in a tournament with, Major League All-Stars. So, it was just cool for me. It was an eye-opening experience. So just to even be there, forget about pitching in the game, just to be there was an honor. And to fact that, I got to go out there and, I showed people that, I can hold my own and, I'm not going to shy away from anybody. And, I had a little bit of success. I threw an inning, no big deal, but, I got 3 outs, 3 quick outs, 3 ground balls. And, just to say that I was able to go out there and do that, especially for a country. I mean, it's different when you're talking about, countries and stuff like that. People are, extremely prideful of their, Major League Baseball team. Now you throw in, your nationality and your country when you're representing them. I mean, there was guys who, they said they would rather play for their country than in the major leagues. It was nuts. I mean, the stadium, the fans, how passionate it was. I mean, you couldn't hear. So if you didn't use hand signals in the infield and, find a way to communicate with your teammates on the field, you couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching you actually pitch. I'm in the locker room at Virginia Tech, and I remember looking at the TV, and Arguelles was like Feds on the mound, and I started laughing. I was just like, dude, Fed's not on the mound. I was talking to him earlier today. He's not on the mound. Like, what are you talking about? The World Baseball Classic's on. I look up, and I see you after an out. You're walking around the mound, getting the ball back, and you're right back on the mound like you were pitching. I don't know who you were pitching against, and I was like,
It was against
he's
Puerto
actually on the
Rico.
mound.
Yeah, it was crazy,
It was unbelievable.
And when I came in the game, so they have run rule in the World Baseball Classic. It's 10-0 after 7, or first team to score 10 runs or whatever it is. And I didn't realize it until I came out of that game that if I had given up a run, it would have been a walk-off. So thank God I didn't get walked off. But yeah, so that would have been crazy. I mean, they were going to be celebrating all around me on the field, but it was cool. I wish we would have, held our own a little bit better that game. I think our team was better than we played. And I'm really excited, hopefully I have the opportunity to do that again, the next World Baseball Classic and really compete because, I mean, our team was full of studs and a lot of young guys. I mean, we had Jock Peterson out in center field. We had Garrett Stubbs catching behind the plate. Just tons of guys, with big league time. Ryan Laverne. I mean, our coaching staff was Kevin Youkilis, Ian Kinsler, Brad Osmus. I mean, these guys are all-stars, Hall of Famers. I mean, bench coaches for, most successful careers, World Series champions. I mean, it was probably the coolest thing I've ever done. Or not probably, it is the coolest thing I've ever done.
Having Kevin Youkilis as a coach, I know from you telling me growing up you were a Red Sox fan, so Kevin Youkilis had to be one of your favorite guys growing up. Having him coach you,
Yeah.
that must have been an incredible experience.
Oh, I told him after our last game, I walked up to him in the lobby in the hotel before I went up to my room, and I said, "Hey, I hate to be this guy, but can I get a picture?" I was a diehard Red Sox fan my whole dad's side's from Boston. You know, he was the nicest guy. I mean, all the coaches, not one ego in that locker room or coaching staff. I mean, they were there to have fun. They were there to help us. They were there to, be supportive. And I don't think you can put together a better coaching staff than we had. I mean, that was pretty special.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how cool was it to pitch for, you know, um, that team, but not only in that team, but in the same city you grew up in Miami.
Yeah, no, I remember I went back and
I mean,
rewatched the inning, and Yonder Alonso, another Canes alumni, unbelievable big league career. He actually, that was one of the things I remember he said is, I had a black and orange glove on, and it was like, oh, he's got the Hurricane colors on, and, it ties back into that. I mean, what are the odds that, we just happen to be in the pool that in the city that I grew up from? I mean, my mom's apartment is 5 blocks or so away from the stadium. So it was pretty cool. My whole family was able to be there. And not only, I got to pitch in the city that I threw in college and, where I spend my off seasons.
wow.
That's great.
I mean, it's really so walk us through how you got this opportunity.
So I actually got an Instagram DM from the general manager of the team about playing for it. And I mean, it was a no brainer. I mean, you'd be silly to say no, especially in, my position, being in the minor leagues to kind of put on the boxing gloves and go with the big boys. So I got an Instagram DM and they had to cut the roster down. I believe there was a 40 player roster and they had to cut it down to 26 or 27. Um, and, when I got that call, I was hoping that it was going to be me, but I was, I would have understood it if, they decided to have, Dylan Cease or Max Fried, on the pitching staff over myself right now, and they completely understood that. But when I got that call, it kind of hit me. I was actually in the middle of a workout when I got the message from Peter Kurz, and ever since, that's all I could think about. Even through the first, I got to spring training 2 weeks earlier, and I pitched in spring training for 2 weeks, and that's all I could think about. Was what I was about to go do. And, every night was, okay, you could throw against this lineup, or hey, what are you going to throw to, Vladdy when he gets in the box? What are you going to throw to Machado when he steps in? And it was, what happened. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
That's great.
after playing in against that caliber of talent, going into your season, what was it like going into the season and pitching in front of like not that many fans compared to the World Baseball Classic? How more settled did you feel on the mound and more confident did you feel from playing in the World Baseball Classic to playing in Hyatt?
Oh, 100% was a confidence booster. Like I said before, it was, I always have had confidence in myself, but sometimes you need to go out there and you need to just do it. And I'm glad that, I was able to just be in the locker room, and especially just get to pitch out on that mound. It was like, okay, you can do this, man. And it was a really cool experience because it did. I remember going out for the first game and, you get those game day nerves, and every outing, and whoever says they don't, then they must not care. Cause I mean, every outing I've thrown in my whole life, I've got those butterflies until I throw that first pitch. But it was definitely a confidence booster. I went out there, was like, all right, I can do this. I don't care who's in the box. It doesn't matter if it's a high hitter or a big leaguer. My goal is to get you out. And I know that if I make a good pitch, I can do it. So 100%, it definitely changed my thought on the whole thing. It wasn't like I had to prove to myself, hey, I can go do this. It was like, okay, you can do this. Like, now it's time to just lock in and pitch.
Yeah, I mean, you never know where baseball can take you.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I mean, you go from being in college to pitching in the World Baseball Classic. I mean, baseball is an